It is a great thing to be in obedience. These are the words of Thomas A. Kempis. I'm Reverend Emmanuel, and in this channel I like to talk about theology, culture, and spirituality. And for today I want to focus more on kind of the spirituality aspect of this. So Thomas A. Kempis is a prior that lived in the 14th century. He wrote this book called The Imitation of Christ, in which he says, it is a great thing to be in obedience. When we look at it, it seems like such an odd thing to say. What does it mean to be? What does it mean when he says it is a great thing to be in obedience? Often when we think about our own lives, we think of things that make us happy. It's things that we get to do things in our own way, and we get things that we want, whether it's an ice cream or an amazing job or a fantastic spouse. So we often think when we get things the way we want, that is what is a great thing for us, right? Whereas Thomas Kempis almost says the opposite. He says it is a great thing to be in obedience. You see, often when we hear the word obedience, it kind of seems to connote a sense of oppression to us, like somebody's above us trying to kind of push us down or trying to force us to do something that we don't like to do. But when we look at it a little bit deeper, what we find is it can be a great thing to be in obedience depending on who and what and for what purpose we obey them, right? For example, think about a scientist working in a laboratory to try to, say, cure cancer, right? So this person is trying to obey the principles of biology, obey the principles of medicine, obey the principles of physics, if you will, and chemistry, in order to find a cure for cancer. So what we find here is that there is a deeper purpose to which they are called when they are in obedience. There is a deeper purpose in which they get to participate when they're in obedience. And in this case, it's to cure all these diseases, right? So, to obey is good if it is for a great purpose. So that's why the object of obedience matters to us a lot. If we don't obey a higher principle, then what happens, right? Thomas A. Kempis says, if you rely on your own reasoning and effort than to be in obedience to Jesus Christ, it will be a long time before you are truly enlightened. So Thomas A. Kempis is going kind of to the next level. He's saying, to be truly enlightened, you have to be in obedience to Jesus Christ, right? So when you look at different people define enlightenment in different ways. For example, in Buddhism, to be enlightened is to realize this world is Maya or illusion, that the ultimate reality is nirvana, or the sense of escape from this illusion into a form of nothingness, a form of being tranquil, right? So when you look at kind of it from the point of view of Christian theology, what Thomas A. Kempis is saying is to be enlightened is to be in obedience to Jesus Christ. What does that even mean, right? So what happens when we are in obedience to Jesus Christ? And when I think about that, to me, the verse that comes to me is John 15, verses 14 and 15. John chapter 15, verses 14 and 15, where Jesus says, "You are my friends if you do as I command. I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I call you friends." So this is Jesus talking to the disciples. So we have two principles here. One is when we are in obedience to Jesus Christ, we are getting into friendship with God through Jesus Christ, right? So that is principle number one. And principle number two is when we do that, we are about God's business. What is God's business? Why did Jesus die on the cross, right? Jesus died on the cross in order that through his death on the cross, our sins are forgiven and we will be more Christ-like and we will create a kingdom of love and peace, right? So that's the ultimate purpose to which we are being called. And when we don't obey that ultimate purpose to which we are being called, then we end up obeying ourselves. We end up obeying our own desire to get an ice cream or to get a job or to get a spouse or whatever that is, right? And when we go into that, we end up being enclosed into a world of competition with other people to get what we want. Thomas More is a philosopher that wrote this book called Utopia, and in that he said, oftentimes in a natural state, human beings are always in a state of war of all against all, because we all are competing for different resources, so we all are fighting against each other to get what we want, and that creates a state of war. So what Jesus is calling us to is to kind of be in a higher state, be in an enlightened state, where we realize, no, to the best place in which we can be is to be in a place where we are obedience to Jesus' way of love and peace through a form of self-giving love. So this contrast between relying on our own effort to get what we want and then to be in this Christ-like way of self-giving love, it beautifully comes out in the Harry Potter series. In the Harry Potter series, you've got Voldemort, right, who is trying to use his own intelligence, his own smartness, to kind of prolong his own life, to create immortality. He creates all these Horcruxes to kind of do that, and in that he perpetuates a world of war. Opposite to Voldemort, you have Harry Potter. Harry Potter is being trained by Dumbledore not to defeat Voldemort by superior magical skills. Harry Potter's role is to be willing to die for his own friends. And when he gets to that stage of being willing to die for his own friends, that is what creates a kingdom of love and peace. In fact, in John 15, verse 13, Jesus says, "Greater love has no one than this, than to lay his own life for one's friends." And that's what Jesus does on the cross, right? Dying for his disciples who are his friends, dying for the world who are the friends of God. And Harry Potter at the very end in book 7, ultimately he decides, okay, he's going to sacrifice himself to save his friends. And it is his sacrifice that ultimately creates a kingdom of love and peace. Just in the way that Jesus' sacrifice starts this kingdom of love and peace, and as people model Jesus' way of self-giving love for other people, it creates a kingdom of love and peace. So, going back to Thomas A. Kempis's first point, right? It is a great thing to be in obedience, because when we are in obedience to Jesus Christ, we are invited into friendship with God. And two, we live into the bigger purpose of creating a kingdom of love and peace by modeling the way of self-giving love of Jesus Christ. Happy is the man that is in obedience with Christ, because he has friendship with God, and he transcends his selfish purposes into a world of the higher purpose of creating a kingdom of love and peace through the way of the selfless love of Jesus Christ. So anyways, that's it for today. If you like my video, please feel free to subscribe to my channel, and I do videos on theology, culture, and spirituality, and today's was more heavy on the spirituality aspect. So I'll do different types of videos of that sort every now and then as well. Anyways, hope you're all doing well. I'll see you again in another video. Bye.